Okay, we're about 3 minutes in. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Michael's Monday Morning Messages, open discussion and Q&A session. So this week's message was titled Communicate before people start guessing. Um, so what does this mean? Well, this was a fun one this week. When you communicate or when communications get quiet, assumptions get loud on projects. Silence creates risks on projects. When updates are late, people start guessing. When expectations are unclear, people fill in the blanks. Typically, they fill in the blanks with misinformation, but they fill in the blanks. And when leaders and clients don't know what's going on, trust starts to erode. Strong consultants communicate early and often, and they don't wait until there's a problem to provide clarity. They keep people aligned, informed, and confident. Good communication is not extra work, it is the work. It's part of the work. So let's dig into a few questions. I've got a few questions to kind of prime the pump here today, and some context and some examples to go through. So let me kind of cue these up. Question number one, where on your current project are people likely filling in the blanks because communication is not clear enough? So feel free to put that in the chat. And here's some context. When clients and leaders or team members don't know what's happening, they usually create their own explanation. And that by itself is a problem. That's where the problems begin. So here's an example. There's a deliverable that's running 2 days late or 2 days behind, but nobody tells the client because the team is still trying to recover the schedule. By the time the client notices, the issue is no longer just the delay. Now they wonder why nobody told them. Now, this happens quite a lot on projects. We get so caught up in trying to do the work, even when we're getting close to, or we've missed a deadline. We're getting close to the deadline or we've missed it. But we're so heads down doing the work that we forget to communicate to people. And that absence of information, that absence of communication, especially to clients, um, is deafening. And they start wondering, they start getting concerned. And more importantly, they start being concerned about trust in you because you didn't come to them and communicate to them. That's really what's happening here is you've lost trust in the client, and the client has lost trust in you. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go to question number two. Um, how do you know when to communicate an issue versus waiting until you have all the answers? This is a good one. The context here is, consultants sometimes delay communications because they want to solve the problem first. It's kind of what we talked about a minute ago. We get so caught up in doing the work that we forget to communicate with people, and that's dangerous. So you don't always need the final answer before you communicate, is the point. So here's an example. You discover a dependency that may affect next week's milestone, but you don't know the full impact. Now, a weak approach or a weak communication approach may be just to stay quiet on it until you know everything. But a better approach might sound something like, excuse me, a better approach may sound something like this. We identified a potential dependency that could affect next week's milestone. We're validating the impact now, and we'll update you by tomorrow afternoon. So we don't have the information to provide, but we're at least telling them that we don't have the information, and we're telling them what we're trying to do to get the information. And then we're also telling them when we will inform them of next steps or more information. And we're keeping that time box into a reasonable amount of time. So that's uh that's a great technique to use and to follow. All right, let's look at the third question here. What does good proactive communication actually look like in day-to-day consulting? So what does it really look like? What's the good sort of a good technique? So good communication is not sending more emails. It's not sort of, overloading people's inbox with status updates, but it is getting the right information to the right people in the right format at the right time. Okay. So keep that in mind. So here's an example. So instead of waiting for the weekly status meetings, you send a short note with a key decision that's needed. And it might read something like this. Here's the decision that's required. Here's why it matters. And here are the options. And here's my recommendation. We need a decision by Thursday to protect the timeline. Now that's clear, that's useful, and that's actionable. And you can make it very short and concise as well. So keep that one in mind. All right, let's go to the fourth one. How can poor communication damage trust even when the actual work is good? Interesting. So here's the context. A consultant can be doing excellent work behind the scenes and still create a poor client experience if stakeholders don't know what's happening. So again, back to the original point that I was making. You can get so caught up in doing the work, even doing exceptional work to produce an exceptional deliverable and an exceptional outcome for your client. But if you're not communicating with them, that by itself, the lack of communication is what's impacting trust, the trust equation and the trust that you have with your client. And it's creating conflict or creating issues in the client's mind that maybe not aren't even there. Okay. Last question I want to explore with you here. So, what conversation are you currently avoiding that would become harder if you wait another week? We've all probably seen this one, right? We know we need to go communicate a particular message to this particular client or a leader, but we're uncomfortable doing it, so we just keep putting it off. Strong communication often requires courage. Sometimes the message is uncomfortable, but delaying it usually makes the situation worse. So again, it doesn't matter how difficult the message is or how unsettling it's going to be for you to deliver that message or for the recipient to receive the message, you still need to deliver the message, is the point. So here's an example. A client expectation is unrealistic. Instead of hoping the team can somehow make it work, you raise it early. So it would sound something like this. Based on the current project scope and timeline, I don't believe that we can deliver all three outcomes at the expected quality. We can protect the date, but we need to reduce the scope and add capacity or adjust the timeline. Here's what I recommend, and then go into the recommendation. Now, that's not negative. It's not just, it's not delivering a negative message. It's being very responsible as a consultant to communicate the facts and the reality, but also in terms of what the problem is, but also bring a solid recommendation or options, and then your recommended solution in those options. So, so that's a great set of topics to kind of go and explore as around this message for the week. Communicate before people start guessing. So let me leave you with this. Your clients and leaders should never have to guess what's happening, what you need from them, or what comes next. Communicate early, communicate clearly, and when there's uncertainty, don't create more of it through silence. Over communication is the key here, guys. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your day. I want to keep this one brief today. Have a great day and look forward to communicating with you in the community. Take care. Bye.